We have a ton of news to discuss in today's video, including the latest trade talk around the Montreal Canadiens, Calgary Flames, and Vancouver Canucks. It looks like the NHL is initiating talks with the PA regarding neck guards and protection after the tragic accident we saw in England a few days ago. We also have a signing, news from the waiver wire, a suspension likely coming for Charlie McAvoy, big news on a couple of rookies, including Matthew Poitras and Kevin Korchinski, lots of injury updates, and a big hire as well in Ottawa. All that and more coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton of news to talk about today, so let's dive right in and get started. First up, I want to talk about neck guards. We saw the tragic accident happen over in the English League in England and the UK for Adam Johnson, of course, been the main topic of conversation around hockey in the last couple of days, and how do we avoid this from happening in the future. Bill Daly confirmed this morning during an interview on NHL Network Radio on Sirius XM that the NHL has initiated talks with the NHLPA over neck guards and whether or not, to move forward with either a recommendation or mandating them or what have you. So that's going to be, basically just to get the conversation on the, at the forefront here, get it on the radar of both sides and see if they can talk things through. A lot of times when it comes to safety procedures and different equipment and things like that, a lot of times it's the players that don't want it and reject it. And it's unfortunate, but sometimes, I understand that a lot of players are used to not having it. A lot of it is, mandated at the lower levels, and when they reach the NHL, like in neck guards, they stop wearing them. They feel they're uncomfortable or what have you. But certainly, you don't want to have a situation happen again if you can avoid it, like what we saw happen with Adam Johnson. So it's at least good to see that Bill Daly has confirmed that he and Gary Bettman have engaged the PA or their new leader on the subject, and we'll see where this goes moving forward. A bunch of news and notes around the Boston Bruins. First up, we had a signing that came later in the day yesterday after I'd already made the last news video that was posted to the channel, but they have signed forward Danton Heinen. He gets a one-year deal for the remainder of the season at league minimum $775,000. Heinen went to training camp with the Bruins on a PTO and had to be extremely patient and wait almost a month into the season here to get a contract signed. So clearly he had still been with the Bruins. He'd still been practicing regularly. He was still, basically, besides playing in the games, he was getting the full treatment of being a Bruin. But now he's officially signed. So now he was on the payroll and can make his way into the lineup. So good to see Heinen persevere and get that done. We're likely going to get a suspension for their top defenseman, Charlie McAvoy. It's going to be a phone hearing, so it's going to be 5 games or less. But it was a really bad-looking, illegal check to the head that happened in last night's game against the Florida Panthers and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. The McAvoy suspension is pretty much a given, the fact that he has a hearing, and he was also given a match penalty and kicked out of the game. It just looked bad. To me, it was very much avoidable, and the head was definitely the focal point, and it almost looked targeted. I mean, hard to say if it was or not. I don't think a lot of players can go in trying to hit the head, but sometimes if they're not careful enough or reckless, then it can happen. A lot of people are saying, well, if Rasmus Andersson got 4 games for his hit that happened recently, McAvoy's got to get at least the same, right? And I would think that it's probably going to be the case, but we'll see what happens. But odds are they're going to be without McAvoy for at least a few games, if not 3 or 4. They also lost Matt Grzelcyk last night due to injury, and according to head coach Jim Montgomery, it looks like he could end up being out a couple of weeks. So certainly going to be down a couple of blue liners in Beantown, which is going to be a big blow, especially in McAvoy's case. He plays a huge role for them. They also confirmed today that young rookie Matthew Poitras, who has been playing with the team and obviously getting to the point where his rookie contract is going to be fully kicked in and won't be able to slide if he plays another game. And they confirmed that he is indeed going to stay, and that's going to be taking place. So his contract will be officially counted for the year, and he's not going anywhere. That doesn't mean at a later date that they couldn't change their mind here. There's still lots of options. The next key date I would kind of keep an eye out for is if he wanted to be loaned to his country for the World Juniors. That's a possibility. Obviously, it's going to depend on how he's doing, how the Bruins are doing. I mean, at this point, the Bruins are well within, it feels like it's a no-brainer that they're going to be a playoff team. Just a matter of, where they're at in the standings, if things are still going as strong as they are now. And if he's playing well, they may not want to stray away from their lineup. But it'd be interesting to see. But that'll be like the next kind of big thing here to see if they decide to go down that road or not. So that is all your updates there on Boston. Another key rookie as well, Chicago Blackhawks defenseman Kevin Korchinski also has been confirmed that he'll be staying with the organization in past the 10-game mark as well. So obviously this will count as a contract year for him. His contract won't slide. He'll stay with the team likely for the season. But again, the Hawks are in a completely different spot. I do wonder, when it comes time for the World Juniors, would they even consider loaning Korchinski or Bedard to Team Canada? I would think Bedard has a less likely chance of going. I mean, it would be awesome for Team Canada to have him, of course, but understandable that he's playing well right now, one of the top rookies in the NHL. It might be a little bit surprising if they did loan him there, but I guess we'll have to see. I mean, it couldn't hurt for him to go and dominate and help his country win a medal. So we'll see, though. I don't know how the Hawks feel about things. Time will tell, but that'll be like the next kind of timeline for some of these rookies to keep an eye out for. Sabres rookie Zach Benson, another player which we don't know yet because he hasn't reached that threshold, but he's still injured, dealing with an injury. It's week to week. I believe to be a similar injury he was dealing with back in training camp. So that's unfortunate for him. The Calgary Flames have recalled Connor Zary. I think the Flames are trying to ignite their offense. He's been having a strong season in the AHL so far offensively. He has really his whole time down there. And with the team struggling to score goals, this is kind of the first step in potentially taking the team in a new direction. And we're going to talk about that here a few minutes from now. But Zary's going to get a good look. With the Flames, looks like he's going to be on power play 2 and probably playing at the very least a top 9 role. So we'll see. The Avalanche today have also recalled Riley Tufte and Caleb Jones as well. The Avalanche have, I think, Makar and Byram are both banged up. Head coach Jared Bednar indicated that it's quite possible at least one of them will miss time. One they're hoping will be able to play in the next game here. So we'll see where that goes. We do have news from the NHL waiver wire as well. The Edmonton Oilers today placed forward Adam Erne on waivers for purpose of assignment. So if he clears, and I suspect he probably will, you never know, but odds are good he'll clear, then he'll be assigned to the American Hockey League. And then once that is completed, either he's picked up or sent down, then they'll be recalling Sam Gagner, who's been on a... obviously, he was already down in the minors playing and getting some AHL time in, so he'll be signed to a league minimum contract as well, 2-way contract. So we'll see where that goes. But Erne on waivers with Gagner, the expected player to replace him on the roster once that is all done with for now. A couple of news and notes on the Ottawa Senators. They made a big hire today, which could be a huge addition, but they've hired Matt Nichol. He's going to be the Director of Player Health and Performance. Matt Nichol is an extremely well-respected member of the fitness industry, you could say, I guess, in a way. He was one of the founders of BioSteel. Now, he had sold his interest in BioSteel long before they ended up in the bankruptcy that they're facing right now. I believe it was 2019, I think it was, that he sold his interest there. But he's been a well-respected athletic trainer, has worked with a lot of the top guys around the NHL. He previously had worked for, I think it was from 2002 to 2009 with the Toronto Maple Leafs as their strength and conditioning coach. So extremely well-respected in his field. And a great addition by the Ottawa Senators. I know Steve Staios had put out the press release acknowledging this. He's officially starting on the job today, and Staios himself has even dealt with him back when he was before he retired. So obviously had a lot of good things to say, and could be a huge addition. Obviously, the Senators are putting a big focus on a lot of the things in off ice that are available, on and off the ice that their players have access to as well. So this is another bright spot, you could say, that the new ownership has brought forward here for the organization. Of course, this week as well, according to Elliotte Friedman and a few other sources around the league, it's still expected the Senators are going to be announced a punishment for the Dadonov trade at the deadline a couple of years back. Obviously, we know Vegas, essentially what we're hearing is Elliotte Friedman and a few other reporters are saying that Vegas wants to be known that they had nothing to do with the screw-up and that they want their reputation protected. We know the Vegas Golden Knights kind of obtained a reputation of being very cold, cutthroat, and at the end of the day, as much as they, look after their players well and respect them all, they're very much a cutthroat business and they want to win at all costs. And, at that rate, like, they'll do whatever they got to do, as much as it might be difficult at times. And, I think for a while they were starting to get a little bit of a bad reputation for just, how they were treating their players and when it comes to making moves and whatnot. And, they want to make it completely clear here that they had done no wrongdoing. That obviously their story is that the Ottawa Senators and Pierre Dorion did not provide accurate information to them on Dadonov during that trade, which then resulted in them not being able to trade him to the Anaheim Ducks later at the deadline. And the deal got rejected because of the no trade clause that was in effect, but that they were told wasn't in effect. So that's a clear fumble on the Sens side of things. Like I said before, I do wonder if a lot of the other members that were in the front office with Dorian at the time, if they might have been recently interviewed or whatnot, because you would think that after Vegas pushing so hard that at some point they might have had to get some information. But his main people working with Dorian at the time would have been Peter McTavish and Trent Mann. Pierre McGuire, none of them are with the Sens anymore, so I do wonder if any of them were interviewed by the league or whatnot, or had anything to say to kind of confirm things. But it's just an odd scenario, and the punishment is still expected. I heard lots of people talking about it, and I believe it was Elliotte Friedman even said that he expected this to be announced actually last week, but because of the Shane Pinto situation, they held off. I guess not wanting to unload too much bad news at once to the organization. I don't know. It could be any time now that this news breaks and we'll actually find out what the punishment is going to be. It could be a fine. It could be a draft pick. It's hard to say what will happen, but something's coming. And a lot of people still think that it very well could cost Pierre Dorion his job. But we don't know the severity of the punishment and how management, or not management, but new ownership feel about this. So we'll see in the coming days once this is all made official. Now on to the trade rumor section of the video. I want to start with the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames, according to Eric Francis of Sportsnet, and Elliotte Friedman's kind of said a lot of the same things recently, but Francis has said that essentially all contract talks for all their pending UFAs are now on hold. It's quite possible that the Flames are kind of rethinking things and feel that they may need to go in a radical new direction and take a whole new approach here. And they're not looking to do probably a significant tear down and like a full rebuild where you tear it right down. He's saying it's likely going to be a more significant retool though, where they basically are going to have to trade some core players. Like, it's going to be significant. It's not like, obviously some players are signed long-term, big money, and they're not going to be really movable anyways, like Huberdeau and probably Kadri and Uyghur. Like, there's obviously some of these guys are going to stay and be part of the new look Flames whenever, assuming they go down this road. But at this point, it's just a matter of time. I would say that unless they get a big winning streak here in the very short term, this is quite likely the direction we're going to see. I don't know if Craig Conroy is going to want to really put this off too long. If this roster can't compete as is, they might as well try to get the best, highest draft pick possible in this year's draft. Obviously, if they can get a high pick, that'll be helpful, go a long way in helping them retool. If they can get in the top, 3 or 4 especially, that would be huge for them. Also, they don't want to call it a rebuild because we know that a lot of markets don't respond well when it comes to the fan base and attendance and whatnot. But a significant retool would be good. Especially the other thing too is you can't strip this roster down completely. You do have too many long-term deals already that would not be movable. So it makes sense that they wouldn't want any more. So you could see that according to Francis, he says the frustration that Elias Lindholm was showing before is back. A lot of people expect Noah Hannafin to be having second thoughts about signing long-term, and all that stuff. All those talks are basically put on hold, put on the shelf for right now. And, the players are probably, like I said, not having second thoughts themselves. Then the team as well. The team is probably looking at this going, well, we've already got a few players locked up long-term on big money deals that are going to be tough to move. Do we want to lock up a couple more and then find out we can't compete and can't really win with this roster? It's really probably not a great idea. You're just going to, create too many cap problems, and it's going to be too difficult to really move forward. So, Lindholm and Hanifin are your main two players, but you got Zadorov in that mix, Kristanev's in that mix, and a few others too. So clearly they've got work to do and some tough decisions to make, but it's quite likely here that we might be getting confirmation in the not too distant future, if the things don't turn around fast with a major winning streak, that we're going to see the Flames go into a significant retool, and some of these players that we thought might stay and sign are now more likely to get moved throughout this season. Another team I want to take a look at is Vancouver. Vancouver's had probably a better than expected start by a lot of people. Vancouver media Rick Dhaliwal on his recent show has indicated that the Canucks are actively working the phones, working hard to try to get a deal done, trying to reward this team for a good start. Most likely what they're trying to do is add on the blue line. As we talked about before, Connor Garland he wants out of Vancouver as well. He got a new agent and has been requesting a trade, so he's still the main person we're expecting to see get moved out. It's just a little bit tricky right now with not a ton of teams having the cap space, and the Canucks have to find the right deal, but at the very least, they're working hard to try to reward this team for having a good start. We know, and they're between the pipes, they're in good shape with Demko and DeSmith. They got lots of good forwards. They can afford to move one as well. It's really the blue line to me is the main area that they could, if they want to reward this team and really add and make it better, that's the area. Obviously guys like Tyler Myers, Connor Garland would be the main ones to try to move. Tricky to do for sure, given their contracts and their salaries, but it's something that the Canucks are actively working on. And in Montreal, still carrying 3 goaltenders, not ideal. TSN analyst and NHL insider Craig Button made some comments recently about the goaltending situation and saying how he feels that if Montreal wants to make a trade in between the pipes and not carry 3 goalies anymore, that with a really good start that we've seen out of veteran Jake Allen, the value on him is probably really high. Now, he does have a modified no trade, so that does make things tricky for moving him, but the interest is likely going to be there and feels like they could get a really good return. Whereas you have a short-term contract for Samuel Montembeault, I still think the Habs see him as being a big part of the future. They're still, according to most people you ask or that have any kind of inside knowledge, that they're still pretty reluctant to put Caden Primo on waivers. He hasn't played much, but when he has played, he hasn't looked good. Clearly, he doesn't seem to be ready to take on a full-time NHL role. But then again, when you're only playing sparingly, it's hard to get any kind of rhythm going too. So it's difficult to say really where their feelings are and where their heads are at when it comes to managing Primo. A lot of people think that it makes more sense to trade Primo. It's been a long time since this team has had, a homegrown, drafted, developed goaltender. It's something a lot of teams struggle with, and all the work that they've put into Primo since he's been, a potential draft steal as a late 7th round pick a number of years ago. I just don't know that they're ready to give up on that. So we'll see. At the end of the day, carrying 3 goalies longer term is not ideal for any of them. I think it's all frustrating for all 3 guys. It'd be nice just to have a duo take on the role and be able to have, either a 1A, 1B or a clear starter and a backup so they have a better expectation of their playing time. But I think Craig Button is definitely right. I think Jake Allen has done a lot to make his value be stronger right now, given that he's had a really good start to the season. But his contract does complicate things between the modified no trade and the salary. That would be challenging for a lot of teams to take on. There are definitely teams out there that want goaltending help. I just don't know that they'd be able to pay the asking price and take on the contract of Jake Allen to make it work. So I'm still not sure. It makes sense that they would explore that. Clearly he's the oldest of the 3. Is he going to be there longer term? Like they probably would like to have Montembeault or Primo be labeled the goalie of the future and somewhat of the present as well. But it's just, it's Montembeault's been a little bit hot and cold too. He's a good goalie, but they've obviously have been reluctant to sign him long term too. So it's really hard to say what direction they go in, but do expect some kind of movement with the Habs goaltending in the not too distant future. So that is all your news and notes for today. Let me know your thoughts and all of it down in the comments below. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.